Hello, I'm Keith Wilson with the Schmidt Music Trombone Shop, back with another daily practice tip for you. And today I want to talk about lip slurs, and specifically lip slurs with wider leaps, wider intervals. Why do we practice lip slurs in the first place? At least in my opinion, it's so that we can learn how to navigate through the different registers of the instrument in the most musical way possible, and really learning how to control our movement between the different partials. So now, of course, we do a lot of lip slurs where we're just moving right through the different partials, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., etc. So for example, and so on and so forth. But of course, there are a ton of musical situations where we're not just moving from the fourth partial to the fifth partial, where we're moving through wider intervals, wider leaps. And there are, any multitude of different ways we can work on practicing these wider intervals. But one of the places I like to start are with lip slurs with wider intervals. Because again, for me, it's simplifying things down. We're taking this down to its essence. And with these lip slurs, again, we can just be concentrating on our air and our ears, training our ears what it sounds like, training our armature what it feels like, without dealing with a lot of excessive slide movement, and then we can start adding in more complicated technical ideas down the road. So for example, we can do lip slurs where we're skipping partials. One of my favorites is where we're essentially skipping every other partial there. And now very often through a lot of these lip slurs, I will sometimes use the seventh partial, sometimes I'll skip the seventh partial, depends on what I'm working on. But regardless, working on skipping through these intervals and really getting comfortable with that movement, and learning how to control these wider leaps within that. And then, of course, as we start to get comfortable with these, we can start to expand the registers as well. And so on and so forth there. Another lip slur skipping exercise that I really like uses the same pattern, but we maintain that alternating partial all the way through the lip slur up and down. And so on and so forth there. And when we're working on these, there's a couple of different concepts that I really try to think about. First off, we really need to make sure that our ears are hearing the right pitches. So if we're having difficulty catching some of these intervals, we can do a couple of different things. First off, we can isolate just a particular interval. So for example, let's say that we're having trouble hearing that distance, that perfect fifth between the fourth partial and the sixth partial. And especially trying to make that really clean and clear. When we're doing these skipping exercises, we want to try to be avoiding that click in between the two partials, for example, 4 and 6. We want to try to not catch the D there. Instead, we want... So it's a matter of training our ears. How do we hear that? Being able to make sure that we can actually hear that interval. Boy, surprise, surprise, music theory comes into play here so that we can actually recognize, auditorially what a perfect fifth should be, what a perfect fourth should be, and then making sure can we sing that interval? Doing a lot of mouthpiece buzzing, especially on the is really, really helpful because it doesn't have those built-in catches, breaks there. It's not locking into the partials, and so this is a great way for us to, to help train our armature, what that, how to move smoothly and cleanly between that fourth partial, B flat and sixth partial F, for example, and so on and so forth. And of course, making sure that we're taking our time as well to do this. If we try to start, going through these too quickly, they're just going to get messy in a lot of cases, and we're not going to be accomplishing what we want to be accomplishing with it. The one other thing that I find really helps with these is making sure that I'm being very, very conscious about my air usage, and especially as we're getting to the upper register or going to the lower register, make sure I'm changing the air I'm using, the faster, cooler air for the upper register, the slower, warmer air for the lower register, because again, we're moving through these registers quicker. We're getting there a lot quicker than maybe we would be through other lip slurs, and so making sure that we're thinking about making that adjustment with that as well. And so these are some great ideas, and of course we can expand beyond this as well. One of the great lip slurs I learned in my graduate studies that frankly gave me fits forever and still does to an extent are the great Robert Marsteller lip slurs. So he kind of takes this idea of these skipping intervals to the next degree. So we're really dealing with some wider intervals there. And then, of course, he expands this to the upper register as well, which really causes me fits at times. But the same concept falls into play here, where we really have to be hearing those intervals. We've got to be supporting with our air. And again, why is this beneficial? Because this is helping to train us how to use these ideas, how to deal with these interval leaps when we run into them in more musical situations. And of course, with any of these, we can go through, we can treat them as lip slurs, we can treat them as, actually articulated exercises as well. To make sure, because of course in a lot of situations we're going to actually have to be articulating those intervals. So using these in a number of different ways, but again, more than anything else, is I just try to use it as a way to kind of break out of my lip slur funk, as it were, to make sure that I'm giving myself more ideas instead of just dealing with the real standard set of lip slurs. And of course, there's a ton of really great resources out there. I continue to be a big fan of the Brad Edwards lip slur studies, and multiple books now he's got of his lip slur melodies, etc., where he does really work on a lot of these concepts to a pretty wide degree as well here. But hopefully a few of these exercises are helpful for you. So as always, I appreciate you watching. If you haven't had a chance, please take an opportunity to check out some of our daily practice tips on our YouTube channel as well. If you like the video, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to our channel so you can find out when we have more of these videos come out. So thank you very much again for watching. Happy practicing, and please keep making music.